Welcome to your new Stepmom, the show, where we explore money and culture so that we can spend more time doing hood rat stuff with our friends. Over a period of 2 days, we interviewed Jeffrey Richard on the topics of credit repair, real estate, and saving hoes. In addition to credit repair, Mr. Richard works at Costco as a meat cutter. He is a real estate investor and property owner, including a 6-unit building. He is a confirmed 6-figure earner, an unconfirmed save-a-hoe, and an all-around cool guy. Let's take a look. The following are the opinions of the participating parties and are not to be taken as legal or professional advice in any way. Welcome, Jeffrey Richard, to your new Stepmom, the show. Let's run down your CV. So, where do you work?
Costco.
Okay. What do you do at Costco?
I'm a butcher.
How long have you been there?
10 years.
Were you ever in another position at Costco?
I used to push carts. Front assistant.
You used to push carts?
Yes.
Besides being a butcher at Costco, you also do credit repair?
Yes.
Right. And you actually helped me get my first laundromat, amongst other things.
Right.
In addition, you're also a real estate investor.
Correct.
Right. How many properties do you own?
3.
How long have you been investing in real estate?
5 years.
Did you go to school? Did you go to college?
Yes, I did.
Did you graduate?
No.
How did you learn how to do credit repair and real estate investing?
I invested in the person that did my taxes, my CPA. His top skill was real estate because he used to be a real estate investor back in the days. So when he did my taxes, I actually paid him $5,000 on my taxes to train me.
How old were you when you bought your first house?
I just turned 27 and bought my first house.
You just turned 27.
Yes.
Were you trying to invest in real estate prior to that?
Yes, since I was 21.
Since you were 21?
Yes.
You were trying to invest in real estate?
Yes.
So what happened between 21 and 27?
Well, because I wasn't making much money, I was in between jobs. Every year when I get my tax returns, I try to invest in programs, or it'd be like boot camps and stuff like that to try to learn stuff. You might invest in someone's route or a group of how they, whatever. And I took a couple of L's there, but my biggest L was at the age of 26 when I went on a bus tour.
Okay. So for those of you who do not know what L's are losses.
Yes.
So you took losses.
A lot of them.
From the age of 21 to 27, essentially.
Yes.
Was there a period where you lost a lot of money?
At the age of 26, I lost about $27,000.
Why didn't you stop at that point?
That's where the money was at. When you talk about a doctor or attorney or anyone that makes money, you all have real estate, and that's where their real money comes from, not from the 9 to 5 that they went to college for.
Were you discouraged when you lost that much money?
No. I was actually more amped to try to get my money back. Now, mind you, whatever money you lost is money that you will never see again because the future money is not that money you lost.
But you kept going.
Yes. And the number one model I learned throughout that process from my CPA was study to show that you are self-improved. And that's one of the reasons why he respected me and agreed to come out of retirement to help me do this, because he said that for someone who took that much losses and wanted to keep going because I learned something from every loss, he felt that was very meaningful.
With your resume on the table, there are a few questions that my audience really wants to know.
Yes.
The first is, how long do you plan on keeping that hairstyle? Do you believe in lineups? Let's talk about credit. What are the things that can bring your credit score down significantly?
Missed payments, that's the number one, that's 35% of your credit score. A charge-off, meaning that you didn't pay a credit card or something like that, didn't end up closing it. And collections.
Can you get missed payments removed from your credit report?
Yes, you can.
How?
I get them forgiven, or if upon disputing it, the creditor that you're disputing did not bother to respond back, at that point it will be removed.
When you're trying to remove mispayments from your credit report, what's the process?
One, everyone always think you want to dispute it with the creditor. I would dispute it with the credit bureau. And there's 3 major credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You dispute it with them, and they question the creditor that put it on your credit report. At that point, you're at their mercy. If they respond, then with proof, proper proof, then they have to keep it on. If they respond, but they didn't really give any type of proof of anything, it also still may stay on because the credit bureau still gets paid a subscription fee for every derogatory remark that's on your credit report.
So that's how they survive?
Yes.
So every creditor pays the credit bureaus for every derogatory remark that is put on your credit report.
Yeah, because they're paying a monthly service for them to report what they're saying. And then they have to pay more for the fact that they have to say, okay, this person owes us this, and that, or misses payment. Now, the credit bureau, because they want to keep reporting it, 9 out of 10 times will let them keep reporting it even if you can prove that they're wrong. Which is why whenever they say something like, oh, this was proven to meet the standards of the FRCA, at that point, I would ask the credit bureau, can you please send me the same proof that they send you, showing that I actually missed this payment or I owe this money.
Once you dispute anything on your credit, how long does a creditor have to respond to a dispute?
They'll respond within 30 days. Now, if you do it in writing and they don't respond within 45 days, you have the right to sue for $1,000 per dispute. And not dispute as in like the whole form, dispute per item. So if there's 5 accounts and you didn't respond, I give you sue you $1,000 for each account. That's $5,000.
The order it goes is you look at your credit report.
Mm-hmm.
You see something you don't like.
Yes.
You write the credit bureau and you tell them, I dispute this.
Yes.
Typically, they respond within 30 days.
Correct.
And by law, they have to respond within how long?
30 days.
30 days. So where is this 45-day period coming from?
The 40 days only applies to when you're writing. If now the 30 days went by, if they hit 45 days and you never got anything, because that had to give the space for when things get mailed out, if there was an emergency, some of that. So if anything happens within 45 days and you didn't get anything, you have the right to go to court and sue them for $1,000 per item that you were disputing.
What if you do it online?
Online, you don't get that same liability or responsibility but they still have to respond within 30 days, regardless. And they will respond a lot faster if it's online. But the problem with online is when you send it there, it's like talking to an automated machine. You might just get a response within 17 days saying, this was proven, but yet no one proved anything. If you send a dispute and they would give you a response that you didn't like, and I'll be disputed again, even though I had more details or whatever. Unless I have more supporting documentation details, they have the right to throw it away. So for the next 120 days, if I dispute the same thing, they can just throw it away without disputing anything and just concerned of what you're asking. If it's after 120 days, I can send the same dispute again with no supporting documents, without questioning them. And they have to process it again for another 30 days.
Okay. So does the 120-day period start from when you get the response or from when you sent the original dispute?
It starts from when you get the response.
Let's take a break from all of that thinking and talk about hoe management. Now, as we all know, these hoes be acting up, and home management is critical to wealth building. While we looked for an expert on the subject matter, we were unable to find a hoe who was willing to be interviewed on camera. But here's what we did find. Take a look. We received an anonymous tip concerning a spike in hoe activity in the area. When we investigated, here's what we found. This man goes by the name E. Here's what he posted on his Facebook page a few days ago. We attempted to sit down and interview E, and here's what happened. Excuse me, E, why are you a hoe? Why are you a hoe? Do you enjoy being a hoe? Would you like to sit down for an interview? Okay, we'll revisit this later. Why are you a hoe? Why are you a hoe? Are there any benefits to being a hoe? Would you like to be interviewed on camera? Would you like to be interviewed? We will continue to investigate. If there has been a spike in hoe activity in your area and you would like for us to investigate, contact us on Instagram at Your New Stepmom Show or via email at yournewstepmomshow@gmail.com. Now on to student loans. Let's talk about student loans.
Yes.
Let's just say that I'm not buying, or Mr. X is not buying a house and has no plans on buying a house. He just doesn't want to pay the loans because he only makes so much and he needs that money to do hood rat stuff with his friends. And the company who has the original loan sells it to another company and they're trying to collect. What would you recommend he do in that position?
Go for a settlement.
For a settlement?
Yes.
All right. How do you negotiate a settlement?
Now, when you're talking about student loans, this is still government with federal money. If someone has been missing the payments, they are willing to give you 3 options to pay, or should I say settle the debt. Now, for less than the full amount. Now, obviously, anyone can settle for the full amount. But let's say you owe $50,000. I can actually tell them, hey, look, I only make $20,000 a year. And if you could prove that, I'll say, hey, the most I can offer you is $5,000 to settle this loan. They might sound like, hey, that's bizarre. So you might go through a few arguments, whatever, and they might counter and say, oh, we'll do $8,000 and we'll settle the whole $50,000 debt because you'd rather get some money than no money. At that point, if they agree to that, I'll tell them to send it to me in writing because I don't want you to just pay them because at that point you could pay them the $8,000 whatever, and it just counts as $8,000 towards a $50,000 debt, and you still owe $42,000. And that's how a lot of people get played because they didn't have anything in writing, and they're wondering why the information is still standing as something other than what they agreed to. Or they might say, okay, or you might say, I'll do $15,000, but I want to do it in 3 payments. And then they'll say, well, what's the dates and how you want to work it out? You give them the 3-month date or 3 payment dates, whatever, and then they'll do it that way.
Okay. So how would you get that money, or how would you get that account off of your credit report?
You have to work that into the agreement as well.
Okay. And they have to put it in writing. In writing.
You want it in writing because in case they don't, now you have that paper and a copy of the agreement to dispute it with the credit bureau, and you got to use that as a supporting document. So at that point, the credit bureau themselves will remove it because you already had the agreement from the company that they would be removed. Whereas if you don't have it in writing, it could just be you going back and forth with the company. And at that point, the company automatically wins because the credit bureau is going to be like, well, you have not shown that you did, and the credit bureau gets paid for them reporting what they're saying. So they're not going to remove something off of no proof. Okay. So what if you make the agreement, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and pay this. We're going to settle on this amount. And for whatever reason, they don't put it in writing that they're going to remove it from your credit score after you pay the debt in full. Do you have any options in that scenario? I would not be paying because I already wasn't paying. At that point, I told them, well, until I get it writing, I'm not paying. What's the worst that could happen? And some people might say, oh, they'll garnish my check. If they were going to garnish your check, they'll do it already. If they have the possibility of garnishing your check, that's what they'll do first, pushing you to try to negotiate something. Otherwise, when you're calling and trying to work something out and it's been like a whole year to never garnish anything because they don't have the capability to garnish your check. Mr. X has a bunch of student loans that he took out while he was in college. He graduated and wants to live his best life and decides, I'm not paying these things. And they go into collections. And the person or the company who originally had the loan sells it to another company. Mm-hmm. They sell it to another company. Mm-hmm. And that company tries to collect the loan amount, however much it was. Yes. Do you recommend that people in that position pay that money? I recommend to dispute it first. Who would they dispute it with? The original company. Would you recommend that they pay
the person who bought the loan from the original company?
No. Let me restate that. The only way I would recommend that you pay the company that bought the loan is if you're someone that's been paying and you're in the middle of a process of needing a good credit score to purchase a home or whatever you're currently working on. The only way I would say not to pay them is if you already wasn't paying the original creditor and they sold it, then I would dispute with the original creditor as far as the loan is concerned.
On investing in real estate, somebody who has never owned property before, would you recommend that they purchase a single family home as their first home?
No.
Why?
There's no money. You want to be able to afford not to work. You buy a single family, you're required to work even more. Because now you're not a tenant anymore, you also pick up water, sewer, insurance, and upkeep, which means your property. Because if you're not picking up, taking care of your lawn and stuff like that, the city can still fine you for not taking care of your property.
Okay. So you would recommend that a first-time buyer, they buy a multifamily?
Correct. Even if you don't want to deal with tenants.
Why do you say that?
Because I saw a lot of reasons why a lot of people don't buy rental property. They know that of the pros, but the con they're afraid of is tenants not paying, tenants being disruptive or destroying the property. If you're afraid of that, get a property management. They will handle all that. And their fee normally is between 6-7% of what the monthly rent is, and they don't get paid until your rent gets collected. So it's not like you're coming out the pocket. So when you're losing money, they're losing money with you. It's a team effort. It's not like, oh, if nobody get the rent, you still owe us that percentage of the rent.
So there's incentive for them to collect the rent?
Yes.
Okay.
And they handle the tenants, this is and that. And if it comes to a point where they feel that the tenants should be evicted, they're going to contact you via email and say, hey, this is where we are right now. Do you want us to evict? Yes or no? If you want us to evict, this is how much you have to send us and we'll handle the rest.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of people in college or who are in grad school and they want to invest in property. Would you recommend that they do that?
Yes.
Why?
You're investing in your future, or wouldn't you?
That's a lot to manage for somebody in college. How would you recommend, or in grad school, how would you recommend they do that?
Is that a serious question?
It is a serious question. There are people here who do not know the answer to that question, and they're looking to you for the answers, sir.
Okay. You're a college student. Everyone that's a college student is going to pick up a part-time job. The first thing is self-discipline. I ain't saying don't go to like a party for a fraternity and stuff like that. But if you do, you obviously have to budget your money. I would say put some money towards the little investments and some money aside for party.
We're talking about discipline here.
Discipline here. Now, in college, that's quite hard to do. Especially when you want to have fun. You know, when you're going to be the cool guy and have fun with your friends.
When you want to do hood rat stuff with your friends.
That is hard, but if you think about the fact that investing in something that could go big and actually pay off your student loans, or actually just get you out of college before you even finish, why wouldn't you take the risk?
Okay. There are some people who have used the money that they've borrowed for school as a down payment for a home. Would you recommend that?
If your student loan is paid, like for you to take classes, yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah, because if you put it into a home, as long as your home is supposed for the purpose of real estate investing, meaning that you gotta rent it out to make money to cover both the mortgage and pay some of your expenses, that's perfect. Now, that's not to say that if you only got it and it only could cover the mortgage, it's not good. If you got it and it at least pays it, as long as it at least pays itself, you're making money regardless because the house appreciates. So it's gonna gain value anyway, where you actually refinance and pay off your student loans, or just refinance, take money out, and invest in something else because your student loans are still deferred anyway while you're in school.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you recommend that someone who's in school, or anybody really, invest in a property that only pays for itself and does not reap any sort of profit?
I always recommend that you go for a house that actually does pay for itself and reap a profit on top of it. But it doesn't mean you're wrong if you buy a property that only pays for itself, as long as there's room for appreciation. Because if the market is in a bubble, meaning there's not much equity to be built on the house that you're buying, you're actually bailing someone else out and giving them their equity, and you're stuck at a point where the market might crash.
So let's talk about that. there's a lot of talk about the market crashing.
Yes.
And there's a lot of investors who are waiting for the market to crash.
Yes.
What do you say to people who have property right now who are concerned about this impending alleged market crash?
If your house is making money and is paying itself and you have profit, the market crash shouldn't matter unless you're someone that was already looking into selling. Now, if you're someone that's currently looking into selling, sell it before the potential crash and get the equity and hold the equity and wait for the crash so you can buy more property at the lower cost.
Okay, so let's talk about equity. What is equity?
Equity is the difference between what your house is worth versus what you owe to the bank for the house.
There are some people who do have equity in their homes. Would you recommend that they pull that equity out and use that money to invest in other properties?
Yes.
Why?
The whole point is making money and being able to afford not to work. Why wouldn't you? And also it has to make sense. As our numbers make sense, why would you stop yourself? The equity is not doing anything sitting in place. Just like your money does not sit in the bank doing nothing either.
Okay. So there's a lot of people who are just trying to save money and they're putting their money in the bank and making almost no interest.
Well, the real question is, what are you saving for?
Okay.
Because the one thing I want to ask them, okay, well, why are you putting so much money into your 401k? Because you could change the percentage. And a lot of times I hear the same story of, oh yes, when I'm retired, I'm good until who knows when, or I want to buy my beach house and sell my house or whatever, stuff like that. Now, I want to get a beach house now when I'm partying, not at the age of 65 when I'm in a rocking chair. That's A. B, why do I want to work so hard to throw my money into a bank account for the order of, depending on how I spread it, whether it's a 10-year return or a 20-year return, it's me paying myself back the money I work hard to build into the bank or the IRA, I should say, or 401k that I did. Now, that's just investing in the company's account to pay myself and sit at home, but it depletes. So if you save really only $30,000 for a 401k, once you pay yourself back that $30,000, that's it. You have no more 401k. You're sitting broke, trying to figure out the rest.
So a lot of people are concerned. There's a lot of people out there who have 401ks,
Yes.
and they're concerned about taking money out because they don't want to incur those penalties.
The penalties, just like anything else, is tax write-off. You can write it off. All right, and you could accept and take the penalties up front or whatever. But as long as you know where the money's going and what it's gonna do for you, that house that you probably could look at, or that investment you're looking at that potentially can make you that money and more back, is worth more than letting it sit there because you're afraid of a penalty that's reversible. And I say reversible meaning that I can file my taxes and get that penalty money back. It's not a definite thing. It's just a penalty that by law you have to pay if you get it before the age of 59 and a half.
The thing about that is that I found a lot of people who are young or younger are afraid to touch their 401ks. They want it when they die or when they're retired. And I think that that's just an incredibly bad idea.
The scary thing, first of all, I pull out my 401k every year. As soon as it pays back itself, I pull it out, and it's always bigger because obviously I'm still giving 401k and the company is still matching every dollar I put in.
But what are you pulling it out for?
Investment. And when I pull it out, literally, if I already have an investment, I pull it out to help my investment appreciate. If everything's already set with the current investment, I add it onto the money I'm already saving from my previous investment to get another investment. It's just taking the money because you want the money to work for you, not you working for the money.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of people who are just working 9 to 5s, and that is their primary hustle.
Yes.
That's their only hustle. What would you say to them?
There's nothing wrong with working 9 to 5. Just if you're an entrepreneur or someone that want to make money, you need to have at least 3 sources of income, not just the one. Like I still have a 9 to 5, and the reason I like my 9 to 5 is because it's secured money. So the banks that I go to for these loans know that, hey, this amount of money is guaranteed. So even if everything else is 50-50, in addition to what he already accomplished, we know we're good and we're going to get our money back. So there's no problem approving the loan. Not to mention it already covers my health insurance and everything that's included, as opposed to we know how much it costs, which is expensive, to get a private health insurance and so forth. So you actually knock a lot of stones. And at my point, really, when I hit 40, I'm going to go part-time. I'm still going to keep the 9 to 5 because it's still a good source of income and it still covers a couple of gray areas like the health insurance and so forth. And I'll still continue on with my investment.
Well, Jeffrey Richard, thank you so much for being on Your New Stepmom. And, actually, there's one more question I have to ask you. The last question that I want to ask you, and this is, I think, one of those things where everybody is kind of just like wondering about it. It's, where the hoes at? Are you a save a hoe? We edited Mr. Richard's comments for the safety of our viewers. If you'd like more information on where the hoes are at, or if you have information on where the hoes are, kindly contact us at Your New Stepmom Show on Instagram or via email at yournewstepmomshow@gmail.com. Stay tuned for weekly episodes where we'll cover how to make this shmoney, investing in real estate, traveling on a budget, hoe management, and so much more. Thank you, and goodbye for now. Go read a book.